So how's our sound? Is it going into the red or is it going into the yellow?
Yellow.
Great. Has it gone into the red at all yet?
Nope.
Great. Okay. G'day everybody, how are you going? It's so good to see you today. Of course, overnight, Canon have made some very interesting announcements, and as soon as I fell out of bed, I decided to record this so we could get this information up as soon as possible. So I am shooting in the morning light. That's why we have this very interesting dappled light. It's a deliberate decision, and for those that find it difficult, it's not a mistake. It's deliberate. Just wanted to let you know. So what have they done? Well, they've released the C300 Mark III, and we have, interestingly, another dribble of specifications around the Canon R5. It's quite interesting that it's coming out in all these little iterations, and you've got to wonder why. Why don't they release, for example, the stills sensor size? We know it shoots 8K video, fantastic. But this camera is traditionally and ergonomically aimed at a stills photographer. So why? Why is it that they're not telling us? Is it a 33 megapixel sensor as per the 8K, or is it a 45 megapixel sensor? Why not tell us? Ultimately, you can only think that this is a competitive decision, and they don't want to let their competitors know just yet. Interesting. Of course, we also don't know about bit rates, we don't know price, we don't know release date. So right now, really, this exists on paper. So today, we talk about feelings, we don't talk about facts. No one knows actually how good this camera is, but based on the numbers that we have, it feels pretty awesome, doesn't it? It has a great deal of theoretical potential. And then we'll find out whether or not the cripple hammer is going to be involved. So let's talk about a little bit more about what we know about the R5. And let's hope I can speak because it's early morning. And if you're wondering, as the Northern Hemisphere is heading into summer, I would understand that it might be getting summery. Well, here, we're heading into winter, and we are, only like 5 weeks from winter. So yes, I'm wearing a jacket because it's early in the morning. All right, let's have a look at some of these specs. Okay, so yes, 8K recording is confirmed at 29.97 frames. We have, I think, some of the things that are most powerful from my perspective, and this is something that I certainly think Nikon will do, and I'm not sure what Sony will do because they sell high-end cameras, high-end video cameras, but it's the internal raw recording. Now, we saw this first in the 1DX Mark III, the 5.5K raw recording, which was very exciting, and now they have announced there is going to be raw recording in this tiny little body. Now that's really interesting because it's small. How do you dissipate the heat and all the issues around that? We are talking 8K. This is a lot of data flying around quickly in a body that's a lot smaller. So what are they going to be doing there to make this all work? Very interesting. And really, all we can think is it's going to have a shorter recording time. I think that's the most likely outcome for how do you deal with the heat that's going to build up whilst this is all happening. But 8K raw internal recording. How exciting. 8K, so to read the spec out, it's 8K internal video recording up to 29.97 frames per second, 422 10-bit Canon log in H.265. Of course, and 4K. Now this is an exciting thing for Canon users around the world. 4K in 120 frames per second. How exciting is that? Well, it's very exciting for any camera person around the world to have 120 frames per second in 4K. Now, I shoot 120 frames per second to get my B-reel stuff some of the time, but it's at 1080p, so there's a resolution jump. Now, sometimes it's not obvious, but sometimes it is. I'd love to be able to shoot it in 4K, so that is very exciting. And that can also be at 422 10-bit in H.265. And of course, they've also said that in both 8K and in 4K, the sensor is not cropped. Wow, that's very exciting. When I was reading the specs, it did occur to me, what about 1080p? Is that cropped? one would hope not. It's just not mentioned. Maybe they think everyone would assume that. Is 1080p cropped, Canon? Come on, tell me. What else have we got here? Because yeah, it specifically says no crop 8K and 4K using full width of the sensor, which means it's great. You get your lenses, all the use of your lenses and so on. And dual pixel AF is going to be working in 8K and 4K. So theoretically, autofocus is going to be off the charts, which is great because Canon are doing an amazing job with their autofocus. We're also going to have Canon's log modes in both 8K and 4K. Fabulous. And one of the most exciting features that I suspect Canon users have been hanging out for a long time is in-body stabilization. So we are seeing that for the very first time in a Canon DSLR or mirrorless camera. This is a really big first. The interesting thing about this is there might be people who are not that interested in video who might have to buy this camera just to get in-body stabilization. And they might say, the complaint they might have is, well, I'm spending a lot of extra money for 8K video or 4K 120 frames just to get in-body stabilization. And I agree. I agree that they shouldn't have to do that if they're not interested in video. But it's there, it's a first, and obviously from this point on, it's going to flow out to all their other cameras. It's just a matter of how much time will that take. Sorry about the bird squawking in the background. And finally, one of the, I put out this video here just a couple of days ago about CF Express, and I certainly theorized that CF Express would be required for the new Z cameras, and certainly it would make a great deal of sense in the R5 because of its 8K. The morning sunlight is moving into my eyeballs. I hope I look fantastic. And lo and behold, just a few days later, yes, it has been announced that the R5 will be using CF Express. Such an astonishing, fast format. That's very exciting. Interesting choice. I think more of a choice for the consumer and less so for the technician is that there's going to be an SD slot in there as well. Personally, I would just make it to CF Express so that you can move at the same speed in both slots. That's how I do it. It's like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do this 100%. What this means is the high-end video specs will require the CF Express, and then if you're shooting anything lower, you can probably record to both cards at once, but when you're shooting that really high bitrate stuff, it'll just go to CF Express. Maybe it can back up after you've finished shooting, or maybe it just doesn't do it. Who knows? But it's very exciting to see Canon embracing the format, the CF Express format. I think this is a great advancement, and this is very much going to help the price drop and the global expansion of this format that I certainly believe has been a great format since we first saw it in XQD, and Nikon adopted it 8 years ago in 2012. It's crazy, that format. And CF Express is the love child of XQD in some ways. So very exciting times. These are the headlines for the new R5. What does this mean? Well, like I said before, we don't know the date, we don't know the price, nobody's used it, nobody's seen it, nobody's shot with it, we haven't seen any pictures or video from it. So really, still everything is largely a mystery, but it's very exciting in theory, and of course, it continues to push the industry along. I've always believed the Z8 or 9 is going to be in a similar sort of space. Sony, what are they going to do? I mean, really, they have been the leader in mirrorless up until this point. Not in all ways, but in many ways. And will they go 8K, for example? Or is this too scary for their video business? It's really interesting times to see how each company will react. Anyway, I would love to hear what you think of the R5. We can talk about the C300 in another video. Please tell me your thoughts on the 8K, the 120 frames per second 4K, etc, etc. I'd love to hear what you think. As always, if this is your first time here and you like what you see, please subscribe, please share, please like. If you'd like to see over 150 videos of mine right now, just click on the screen, just under the screen here, and I'll look forward to seeing you very soon. All right, bye for now.